Good morning, everyone. I'd love to tell you that the reason I've been missing for the last almost 2 months is because we've been away on a world cruise, but actually it's to do with the fact that we've had little to non-existent Wi-Fi. Mentioned before, I've got quite a lot of data on my phone plan, but I need to hold on to that as I go through most of that in the month. And most of the video watching and YouTube stuff is all done on Wi-Fi. Now, we've not had any Wi-Fi, and we're basically just waiting for our contract to run out so that we can move to a different provider. I'll give you an example of what we've had to put up with. The phone company we're with sent an engineer out who identified a problem with the earth coming into the house. Didn't make sense to us because the phone works perfect but the broadband doesn't. However, he's the phone engineer. They put me in touch with the head office, and as part of the terms and conditions we had to agree that when they send a BT OpenReach engineer out, because apparently they're not allowed to work on that line, their lines only begin from the box onwards in the house. Up to the house it's BT OpenReach. When the BT OpenReach engineer comes out, based on the report from our phone company's telephone engineer, if the BT OpenReach engineer doesn't find a problem, we have to pay £90, although their engineer has identified a problem. So this is the kind of nonsense we've had to put up with, and that's the reason I've been sort of missing in action. Now, the following video is a bit too long. I've tried to edit it down. It's very scrappy. You're forgiven if you skip it. But anyhow, here's what's been happening since the 1st of August. I can't believe it. You wait till Nanny sees this. She's not going to believe it.
No, we need 3 more.
We need 3 more. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We need to make a tower.
Oh, we have to make a tower. Okay.
Of potatoes.
That sounds like a good plan.
That is a door. Down there.
Oh, you are kidding me.
Found another.
What a beauty.
We put it next to that one.
Okay.
And then Nanny won't see that. Make the tower.
And she's going to make it into a tower.
I'm going to make it into a tower. Do you? Look, find one, yeah. Found it.
Another one.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's too hard to get.
I think you're kidding me this time. You can't have found another one. Look at the size of it. Oh my God. Look at the size of it.
We need to put it in the front.
Oh, that guy's got to go in the front. He's so
We're gonna
big.
Make a tower.
Yeah, he's got to go in the front.
Found it. Another.
Caitlin, I think you're kidding me.
No, I'm just
Oh,
fatty.
you have to be the best potato finder in the universe, not just in this country.
It's funny though.
It's funny. How do you find so many potatoes?
I don't know.
You just know how to do it, I suppose. No.
Yeah.
No. So we got a good result from that particular pot. Not all pots were as good, but they all did produce, and we've now got enough potatoes for the rest of the year, which was the objective, so that was great. I hope you're learning something here now. When you go to clean up compost after you've harvested your potatoes, take your wellies and socks off, and you apparently have to do it in your bare feet, according to my granddaughter. This is the garlic. Now, the garlic was a bit of a write-off, really. Didn't have much luck with this at all. But thanks to Practical Gardener for pointing out that these are what looks like some sort of alien growth bursting forth from the stem is actually the true seeds of the garlic. So I'm going to plant these and see what happens. I've no idea how they grow. If it takes 1 or 2, like onions, you have to grow the plant and then get the seed and then plant the seed and then you'll get your onions. I don't know if it's a 2-year thing, but I'm going to plant them and see what happens. And the cloves are very small, but what we did get is lovely. There's a lovely strong flavour from the garlic cloves, so all in all, not a total loss. I had a bit of better luck with the spring onions, and I still have, I think it's 2 pots to harvest yet, but by the time you're watching this, all of these will have been eaten. And I'm assuming they tasted lovely in salads and all the rest of it. So I was quite pleased with the spring onions. There's 4 of the cucumbers. I actually thought the courgettes were going to do better than the cucumber. But the plants that I had growing, which were just in pots along the edge of the garden path, in front of a load of potatoes, that were also growing in pots, they absolutely thrive. These are Marketmore cucumbers, and I'll grow them in the same spot again because we had tons of cucumbers. Some beetroot there, which was lovely. These plants got decimated with the leaf miner. You remember I showed some of that. That's one of... Obviously, I had intended to put that into a video at some point, which then just didn't get made, but that was a little bit of harvest now. I collected a whole load of wood chip for free, and myself and my granddaughter decided that what we would do is we would use all this wood chip to plant our Christmas potatoes in. So there she is, adding her sprinkles, which is bloodfish and bone. And the reason I decided to grow it in wood chip was because I didn't have any fresh compost. And when I ordered the potatoes, when they arrived, I thought I had them safely stored in a cool, dark place so they would chit quite slowly. And it turns out when I went to retrieve the bags, they chits had really properly sprouted. I mean, there was 1 or 2 looked like they were almost a foot long, so I didn't really want to waste money planting them out. And the potato itself, seed potato, was very soft and squishy, so I thought, I don't even know if these are going to grow properly. So seeing as I had the bloodfish and bone, and seeing as I got the wood chip for nothing, I thought, well, let's plant them in the wood chip and we'll see what happens. Now you can see it's very rough cut wood chip, and it's from a willow tree. So there was a little bit of green mixed in, but it's 99.99 recurring % wood chip. So we had good fun planting these out. I have shallots and Maris pear being planted here. And hopefully, if I don't have blight and weather conditions aren't such that it encourages blight, we might have some shallots for Christmas like we did last year. So we're just waiting on that. I'm hoping as well, because they're wood chip, I saw a couple of people's videos, and when they grew things mostly in wood chip, moisture wasn't so much of an issue. And moisture in the growing in barrels and pots, I found that to be one of my big learning curves this year, is I didn't water plants nearly enough that were growing in containers. So that's something for next year, really. I need to get a much better watering regime, but hopefully with the wood chip, because the chips will hold the moisture better than just about anything, watering these guys won't be such an issue. In fact, now that the weather's turning, the rain will probably just be sufficient. So that's them watered down now, and because the wood chip will encourage a lot of fungi, I'm hoping that will help with the roots of the potato as well. Now this barrel of this container of carrots, I don't know what it is with this container. This was the container I pointed out a few videos back. I planted carrots in, nothing grew. I re-sowed it and only a handful came through. This is the few carrots that I left after the fox decided to have a good dig around. So what I'm just going to leave them and see if they'll recover what's left. So the salad bit's looking quite good. And again, by the time you're watching this, we'll have eaten all this stuff. And I can assure you it was delicious. So yeah, the spinach, rocket, all grew really well. Some leeks there. I thought they were spring onions. I think I referred to them as spring onions in a previous video, but they're actually leeks, chives, and you can see the parsnips there looked quite good at that stage, but you'll see later on they're just not doing well at all. And these are peas. Now I planted these incredibly late, so I was surprised they grew at all. But this is during the night. We had a bit of rain, so normally when it rains of an evening when it's dark, I go out and collect up as many snails as I can. And I was a bit surprised to find a worm climbing up the pea plant. There's a couple of worms there which you notice they were obviously in the vermicompost that I used to plant the peas in. So two surprises really. One, I'm surprised anything grew at all because I planted them so late, and two, I'm surprised to land up my worms like climbing pea plants in the dark when nobody can see them. I obviously caught them by surprise because they weren't expecting me to come out at midnight. So yeah, that'll teach them. Now you'll see a bit later on as well, the courgettes which I had growing in the corner, they got decimated over the course of about 2 days when I wasn't watching them with powdery mildew. Now I think it was Catherine who pointed out, I earlier in the year mistook, sorry, because I'm trying to do a voiceover and this is so clippy, these are tomatoes which were fantastic and they grew very well in that spot, so I'll use that spot again next year. And apart from this small pot which you saw on the extreme left, all of the other pots of tomatoes were free. They were self-seeded tomatoes which I pulled out of the compost, or when I used the vermicompost they were coming up among other plants like the lettuce, so I just repotted them, and you can see I've got a great mix of tomatoes. And I thought, because we haven't looked at a worm bin for ages, I'd have a quick look at them. But I just wanted to finish what I was saying about the peas. You'll see they were covered in powdery mildew. It was Catherine who pointed out to me, I was mistaken. The natural there's a natural silver sheen on the leaves of courgettes, which I thought was the start of powdery mildew. So thank you, Catherine, for that. I'd made up some bicarb of soda to spray on them. So it turns out what I thought was powdery mildew wasn't, but later on, took my eye off stuff for a couple of days. I came out and the plants, the courgettes that were growing in the corner were just white. But what I didn't really appreciate was it had spread onto everything. So this, you'll see the peas, they were covered in a mildew. The cucumbers were covered, the Swedes were covered, everything was covered in this powdery mildew. Now the treating it with the bicarb of soda did a good job. So yeah, again, lesson learned. Now here's the big worm bin outside. This time last year, if you go back in the videos, I did a video in one of the Dalek bins, which was absolutely smothered in slugs and snails, and it was because I had put in a lot of the windfall apples which we got from a neighbour down the road. Well, we did even better this year. We got tons and tons of windfall apples off her. So about a third of them went in to make what do you call it, apple stew. A third was fed to the horses, and a third was fed, the worst of the lot, was fed to the worm bins. And as you can see there, they love it. And funnily enough, there isn't as many slugs in the bins as there was this time last year. So I just thought that was curious. I honestly expected to find a lot more slugs in the bin. But yeah, this bin and the two garlic bins, the cardboard only blue recycling bin, and the worm tower, they're all doing really well. I need to get the videos out on the worm tower. So I'll do a little series on that. I know I promised that ages ago, but just things being as they are, it didn't happen, but it will happen soon. And I'll do an update early in the new year on the cardboard only worm bin, but that's doing extremely well. So, and I want to do a comparison as well. I want to do I want to grow something in a pot which has the cardboard only vermicompost versus normal vermicompost versus compost, and we'll just see what happens. So yeah, they're right in the middle of the worm, right in the middle of the apple there. So yeah, and there's an awful lot of isopods in this bin as well, because there's a fair bit of cardboard. And I can tell you now, from the time that was filmed, which was sometime in August, to now, all that cardboard is gone. I absolutely love isopods in the worm bin. They do a fantastic job of breaking down any of the more woody material and cardboard and paper. So that was just a quick look at that worm bin. I just feel guilty that I haven't put anything up in such a long time about worms. So for those of you who need your worm fix, I know it's not ideal, but I hope that will get you through get you through the weekend until I get a proper video up on one of the bins. Now we're back to the peas, and this is obviously a few weeks later because we've actually got pods on the plants, and you can see that mildew now. It might be a different kind of mildew. It might not be the powdery mildew that came off the courgette leaves, but it definitely spread to almost everything in the garden. But it didn't affect the peas. These are sugar snacks, I think they were called, and they were very, very sweet peas. Really lovely. So the mildew or whatever that is, it didn't affect the quality of the peas or the taste, which was good. That's some of the harvest. So from those 5 plants, I got about 3 or 4 times what you see there. Not a huge harvest by any means, but it was just brilliant. I was just chuffed that they grew at all. And these are the Charlottes and the Maris pears. You can see there I've not watered this, so there's some mushrooms, proof that there's plenty of fungi going in. There's the carrots, they've recovered very well. I think there's 3 or 4 there. I might leave them till Christmas or just before. So I'm amazed they survived. But you can see the Charlottes are really pressing on, coming up through in the wood chip, and a bit slower in the compost. So I'm not watering these at all. I'm just letting the rain do its thing, whatever rain they get. Because you can see there the wood chips do a brilliant job of holding the water. We've had quite a few tomatoes off these plants now. They're coming to an end. But something that just occurred to me, a bit too late it might, as it turns out, might be the case, is that these tomatoes have blight. The Phytophthora infestans, the late blight, is exactly the same. It's the same blight that affects potatoes. So although I got all these tomatoes off in good time, and it didn't affect the taste or the quality of them, the plants, some of the plants definitely had blight, and the tomatoes and potatoes are related, and the same blight affects both plants. So I may just have involuntarily put all the potatoes right under a load of tomatoes that were covered in blight. Now, that's a bit gross. I left them there because I pulled slugs off. That damage is slug damage. And I left a few tomatoes on the where the pond is going to be. I left them on the wall there to see if it would distract them. There you go. From the going onto the plants. I thought if they had an easy place to feed, and then I could come out of an evening and pick them, but they weren't silly. They didn't fall for it. So the slugs have been feeding quite happily on the two plants that were there. But yeah, they're very dangerous. Spinach and lettuce, I've had to cover them in a cage. Very, very dangerous plants. Actually, that's there just to help me put some plastic over it. Now the evenings are getting cooler. That's the end of the potatoes on that side, and you can see there the Japanese Mahonia lived. Boy, was I relieved. So yeah, I think that they were they were King Edwards. I think the ones that are in there, King Edwards and Maris Piper. And on the other side of the garden, these had a little bit longer to go. But like I said, by the time you're watching this, I've actually harvested all of the pots of potatoes. And I have a couple of large Hessian sacks full of them. These I've kept. That's the potato seed. I want to plant out some potato seed and see what happens. So I'll have a true garlic seed and potato seed. And the Japanese Mahonia, where I savaged it back and threw it on that side of the garden, it's actually, one of the cuts has actually taken root, just where you see that riddle. I haven't got a picture of it there, but later on I cut back a load of ivy and stuff and chucked it there. That's some of the spring onion that I've still got left to pick. And you'll notice as well from the Making a New Garden 1 hour at a time video series, which came to a halt because nature wouldn't wait for me and I needed the space. I've been burning a lot of the stuff now because it's dried out over the summer, and I'm saving the ash. And that's really all that's on the potato. You can see that table looks an awful lot different than previously, where most of the salad stuff is gone. That's I've still got some spring onion coming up. Now look at the parsnips. Remember I mentioned how bad the parsnips were? They've been devastated, the leaves, so I think I'm going to pull them up and eat them. And chives, that's about all I've got down that end. And again the leeks, which don't seem to be doing anything. So listen, that's it for now. My apologies for not being able to get anything up for a while, and then when I did get something up, it's very scrappy like this. I want to say a massive thank you to Linda and Louise for the shout outs. I did notice my subscriber count has gone up, and I thought that's brilliant. I've stopped making videos and everybody's starting to subscribe to me. So are people trying to tell me something? Stop making videos and we'll subscribe. That's how bad my videos are. But no, listen, I really appreciate it. I've got a competition coming up now because I'm well over the 500 mark, and I was going to do a little competition at 500. So that's coming up. I've got a couple of shout outs to do, obviously, next Sunday or the Sunday after, and I've got to start that little series on using a worm tower. So if you've managed to get this far, thank you ever so much for watching. Thank you for your support. Thanks for not abandoning the channel when it looked like I might have done so. And as soon as I get Wi-Fi sorted out, I'll get back to watching all your videos and commenting. I have managed to get a few little comments out on Twitter and Facebook and the like, but not so much on YouTube, just because of the Wi-Fi issues. But hopefully that'll get better soon. Alright, bye for now.